Are you willing to pledge that whatever cuts in Medicare are being made to fund health insurance, 1/3 of it, that you will veto anything that tries to undo that?
Yes. I actually have said that it is important for us to make sure this thing is deficit neutral without tricks. I said I wouldn't sign a bill that didn't meet that criteria.
Well, that single comment from the past, throwing the Republicans are killing Granny thing right off its own cliff. But let's just think about this. Just when the president was gaining traction, now signs his campaign could be taking on water. Indeed, if Mitt Romney's turnaround in Ohio and Florida and North Carolina and Virginia to say nothing of a sudden surge in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania holds, at a minimum, easy for me to say, he's going to pick up close to 50 electoral votes this week that he did not appear to have last week, enough to effectively draw even with the president this week. Way too early to say, but this much I can say. Thanks to Joe's words this week and the president's own words from nearly 3 years ago coming back to haunt him this week, Democrats are suddenly in deep trouble this fall. And that is why I went a little long here to put all this in perspective for you on the week that was and how we played a very big part in framing it. And to top the week off, this spending coup de grace. The White House planning to take $470 million unspent bucks from states and force them to spend it on roads and bridges, as if. Town Hall's Katie Pavlich says instead of spending more money, the president should be taking the time to fix this mess. But boy, talk about adding insult to injury, Katie. What do you make of this?
Well, like you said, you packed a lot in there, but starting with Joe Biden's comments, the president came out and, yes, said that Joe Biden's phrasing of what he said in Danville, Virginia was a distraction away from the real issues here. But although lots of people are offended, Governor Wilder said on your show that this was an inappropriate comment for Biden to make. Santita Jackson went on Hannity last night, who is Jesse Jackson's daughter, and said that Joe Biden should apologize. Archer Davis, who was a former representative from Alabama, who actually was a surrogate for President Obama in 2008, also came out and said this is partially the reason why he has switched his voter registration from Democrat to Republican. And so when you look at that, a new study came out today showing 800,000 people have dropped their Democrat status since 2008. You've got a big problem for President Obama going into November.
Well, and you're a good reader of these political kind of swings and fortunes. They sway alarmingly so and very quickly. But I think what made this last particular week interesting to me and why I went and framed it as long, hopefully not too boring as I did this week and this day and this show is that I think
You're
this
never
week,
boring, Neil.
I'll tell you, I think this week was unusual in that it all combined to hurt the president's base. I think when you hurt your base or you prompt it to say, wait a minute, like you were mentioning about the Doug Wilders and some of these others, that should be an alarm. And I'm wondering, that's not so easy to recover from, is it?
It's really not. And I think that the White House response to Joe Biden's comments and the response to outrage by Governor Wilders and people like Archer Davis, by doing this condescending tone of, well, you just didn't understand what he was talking about. That's something that the Obama administration, the Obama campaign has used throughout the last year. When people come up with something that they're offended about, rightly so, the White House then comes back and says that they just didn't understand the context, they just didn't understand the point of the conversation, when the American people know exactly what Joe Biden was getting at. They understand what the super PAC, which was affiliated with the former White House deputy press secretary, was talking about when it implied that Mitt Romney killed a man's wife. I mean, the American people can read through the condescending tone.
But
the White
real
House telling
quickly,
me to
Katie,
understand.
I'm sorry, Katie, but there is another cynical view on this, and it was raised by no less than my buddy Charlie Gasparino on Fox Business, and that is this idea that there might have been a purpose to this. That it might have been, ironically, to try to rally the base and try to get the loyal supporters of the president back with him. But if you're right, I suspect you are here, given the number of just African Americans who've spoken out against it and African American fundraisers who've spoken out against it, I think it backfired.
Oh, I think it definitely backfired, and I would agree with Charlie Gasparino on that this could have been a planned thing. You know, the Obama campaign has been focused on things like Mitt Romney's tax returns. They want to do everything but focus on the economy and, quite frankly, the facts surrounding Medicare. I mean, you played the clips of President Obama saying that he would veto anything that reversed the cuts that are taken from Medicare to pay for Obamacare. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth here. Stephanie Cutter, deputy campaign manager, said that cutting that from Medicare was an achievement. Yet you have David Axelrod out there on the campaign trail accusing Paul Ryan of being the one who's actually gutting Medicare, even though Paul Ryan's own mother is 80, living in Florida and on Medicare. And so they've really got to get their message, honed in here and kind of reevaluate where they are. Hillary Clinton has said she doesn't want to be the VP. But they do have some time to get rid of Joe.
Well, that's a story that's out there. We don't know. But we do know that all of a sudden, all these fear stories on Medicare and how it would affect seniors. In Florida, the latest polls, Team Romney is leading. But that could be fleeting, but it is interesting in a week that was certainly worth noting as we did. Katie, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.